Here from Fantasy Alarm. It's that time of the week where we go through and we hit all the key usage, all the important stuff that happened yesterday, kind of comb through the rubble, tell you what's important, what's not important. Quick shout out to a lot of the sources we look around at. Obviously Fantasy Alarm, our stuff. We have a lot of the snap counts, football guys, Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Reference, Player Profiler, StatHead, Fantasy Point Status. We comb around, we see what we can find, give you as much of a snapshot of what actually happened this week as we can so that you can use that information as you wish. So here we go. First game here, Saints and Falcons. On the Saints side, we've seen the same offense all year. What they're doing is just like the 49ers, just like the Dolphins, they use a lot of fullback. So that highly consolidates the targets and snaps among guys like Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. They've had a 23% target share essentially all year. It's just the team has thrown the fewest passes of any team. This week, that ramped up. They actually threw the ball, dropped back to pass 39 times, and guess what? 10 targets for Olave, 11 for Shaheed. We're starting both guys virtually every week. We're starting Alvin Kamara every week. And of course, Taysom Hill vultures some touchdowns, but he got banged up, so we'll have to see. But again, that he's been the major problem for Derek Carr, and we saw it again this week. They take the quarterback out at the goal line, or they hand the ball to Taysom Hill. It hurts everybody in the offense. But Olave, Shaheed, Kamara, those guys are locked in. On the Falcon side, it's been as we've seen for the wide receivers. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Raven McLeod, they played virtually the entire game. The next highest wide receiver played 3 snaps. All those guys played 54, 55, 55 snaps. So those are your guys. Drake London's obviously the top dog here. And then, Mooney runs a higher 8 dot. Raven McLeod runs lower. So, you got to decide. PPR, maybe it's McLeod, but I prefer Mooney if I'm going to go with those guys. Kyle Pitts, usage not as good. Week 1, he played every snap and ran every route. This week only played 38 of 56 snaps, 22 of 34 routes, and they used guys like Charlie Warner and for some of the rundowns, and they kind of rotated them out. They ran a lot of 11 personnel and rotated the tight end. So if Kyle Pitts isn't going to block well in this scheme, he's not going to play a ton. They got to find a new scheme for Kyle Pitts, honestly, because this one if you're going to use 3 wide receivers every play, then you got to have a tight end that can block and run routes like a George Kittle type or even a Colby Parkinson type. Kyle Pitts doesn't block well, so not ideal for him. Bijan Robinson split. In fact, Tyler Algier got more carries, and we warned that this could happen because with that AC joint injury, right, the one that Dalvin Cook has had years and years, like that's a pain tolerance issue where if you're lowering your shoulder as a running back, that's going to hurt. So, it looked like they're using Tyler Algier to ease things in for Bijan Robinson. Not ideal, but you're starting Bijan every week. That's the way it is. Next game here, we're looking at the Bengals and the Panthers. On the Bengals side, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They both played virtually the entire game. Andre Yosivas was the third wide receiver there, so he has some dart throw potential, but again, only one target this week. It really is Chase and Higgins. For tight ends, they they basically had Gesicki as the pass down guy. He played 22 snaps, ran 18 routes, came out for rundowns. Teams, if you're seeing Mike Gesicki come on the field, it's probably a pass play. Eric All actually led the team in snaps with 40. Drew Sample played 38 to only 22 for Gesicki, but they only ran 10 and 6 routes. So just really turns into a situation where we're not interested in using any of these guys, to be honest. Zach Moss, despite Chase Brown matching him in carries with 15, Zach Moss played 40 snaps to 27 for Chase Brown. Zach Moss ran more routes, and they split the carries. So Zach Moss still is the preferred guy, but Chase Brown kind of working his way in there. People have been calling for it on Twitter. They're getting it. So there you go. With the Carolina Panthers, you have Adam Thielen out, and Andy Dalton has kind of ramped up this offense, which is nice. It's Deontay Johnson as the top dog, but Xavier Legette comes out, has 10 targets, plays more snaps than Jonathan Mingo, runs 37 to 42 routes. Xavier Legette actually technically led this team of all the pass catchers in snaps. So he's definitely an ad off waivers for me. If you need a wide receiver, this is the week. There's a lot of guys we're going to mention. Xavier Legette absolutely won. He got 10 targets and he got 2 carries, right? That explosive rookies. That's what we're looking for. Tommy Tremble led in snaps and routes for tight ends, so he would be your dart throw. But again, he got no targets. And then Chuba Hubbard played 52 snaps, only 22 for Miles Sanders. So Chuba is the guy. Chuba is the guy until Jonathan Brooks gets back, and we don't know what he's going to look like when he does get out there. I say back, but he's never even played for this team because he's been hurt the entire time. Rams at Bears. Bears here. DJ Moore led the team in snaps. Rome Odunze was next, but Rome Odunze ran 23 routes. Keenan Allen ran 22. They both got 3 targets, so It's going to be muddled over there. We warned people not to chase the points for Cole Kmet. He ran 20 routes, got 3 targets. I mean, it's just crowded over there with Moore, Odunze, Keenan Allen. Cole Kmet's like the 4th target on the team. There's a lot of that going on. Noah Fant and Dalton Schultz. It's just hard to get targets when you're not a top 2 target. That's why we always go for guys that have that possibility. DeAndre Swift, with his job being threatened by Roschon Johnson, played 38 snaps to 22 for Roschon. Roschon got more touches than usual, but DeAndre Swift had his best game yet. So it's still DeAndre Swift over Roschon. DeAndre got more carries. He played more pass plays. Khalil Herbert wasn't even involved. On the Rams side, you got no Cooper Kupp. You got no Puka Nacua. So they're piecing it together. The 3 guys that played the most are Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson. As we know, the Rams like their 11 personnel. Those 3 guys played virtually the whole game. Jordan Whittington and Tutu got most of the targets. Demarcus Robinson did get, he got the target on the 2-point conversion, which counts for something, technically. But I mean, Tutu probably has the most sustainable upside because he's the one that meshes the best with Puka and Cooper Kupp as a 3 wide receiver set. But Jordan Whittington definitely has spot start ability. I mean, they all kind of do because they're all playing a ton. It's just tough to pick which one's going to do it in which given week. Colby Parkinson is playing all the snaps. He's running a ton of routes. He even got 6 targets this week. He's had a bunch of games with 5 and 6 targets. He's not an incredible player, but as far as a spot start goes, you could do a lot worse. And there's just so many guys right now, like Mark Andrews, that are doing nothing, that these guys like Ertz and Freiermuth and Parkinson that are at least playing and getting the targets, you got to try and get one of those guys on the roster and get him in there, even if you're going to use a bench spot on some of these upside plays. Kyron Williams, 48 snaps to 13 for Ronnie Rivers. Don't really need to talk about that. Kyron Williams is the guy. Blake Corum didn't even play. So who knows what would happen if Blake Corum would take over if Kyron Williams went down. We like to hope that he would, but we don't even know if that would be the case. Next game here, Vikings revenge game. Aaron Jones against the Packers. Aaron Jones got his revenge and they won. He didn't score, so no Lambeau Leap for him, but he played 56 snaps out of 68. So they gave him the chance. They gave him the ball a ton. He looked good. He had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Shout out Aaron Jones. He's been a pleasant surprise in fantasy. Top 10 back, essentially, in fantasy football, which is great, especially at the ADP. Justin Jefferson is awesome. Jordan Addison is back. He scored 2 touchdowns. He only got 3 targets, but, I mean, did his most with it. And Jalen Naylor really went back on the back burner, only 14 snaps. So it's Addison, it's Jefferson. I'm not trusting any of the tight ends, but we'll stash TJ Hawkinson just to see. And that's what it is. Green Bay Packers, they lost Christian Watson here. Real shame because, he worked so hard on the hamstrings all offseason. Then he gets rolled up on high ankle sprain, just kind of a fluke play. So with him out, they went 3 wide receiver sets, Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs on the outside, Jaden Reed in the slot. This is how he got a couple 90-yard games from Wicks last year. When Christian Watson was out, he stepped up. So Dontavian Wicks is another waiver ad, just like Xavier Legette. Check out my waiver article to see how I'm stacking those guys up and how much you should spend on them. That should be out first thing tomorrow morning. Then you have Tucker Kraft playing well over Luke Musgrave. I thought Luke Musgrave was going to play more pass downs. Kraft would play more, run downs and skew blocking, but it's been Tucker Kraft in every situation. And he's the preferred guy there. And, as wide receivers get hurt here, maybe Kraft can be a guy that we can use for spot starts. Right now, he's just too far down that pecking order, in my opinion. Josh Jacobs played 46 snaps. Emmanuel Wilson played 30, though. So they're kind of utilizing more Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, Jacobs got more carries. He ran more routes. He's obviously the preferred guy, but his ceiling could be capped a little bit. And Wilson being the only other show in town could be a spot start. I mean, I've had to use him in spot start situations and actually worked out okay. So keep that in mind with these thin depth charts. There's only 2 guys. A.J. Dillon's on IR. Marshawn Lloyd's not coming back for a while. So for the time being, you get the additional upside of him being really the only other guy if something happens. Next game here, Jaguars at Texans. On the Texans side, it was Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. With Tank Dell out, Robert Woods played more, but that really just pushed the targets towards Collins and Diggs. But that makes Robert Woods, anytime Tank Dell's out, probably the DFS dart throw. At least now we know. He went out and played 54 snaps, so he took over that gig. Dalton Schultz played a ton. He ran a ton of routes. But, again, unless you're a top 2 target on the team, it's hard to be reliable. And the Jags safeties are bad, so it was a good spot for him. He just didn't do anything. What are you going to do? He needs another injury to Nico or Diggs, and then now all of a sudden we're a lot more interested in a guy like Dalton Schultz. Cam Akers led 30 snaps, but Dare Ogunbowale played more pass snaps, 22 routes to 11 for Akers and 26 pass snaps for Ogunbowale if you count the pass blocking snaps to only 11 for Akers. So he was the guy there. And J.J. Taylor mixed in a little bit on the rundowns, which hurts for Ogunbowale because Like now they don't have much interest in handing him the football. 13 carries for Akers, 6 for JJ Taylor, 2 for Agumbawale. Really makes them all kind of tough starts. So we're just kind of waiting for Mixon to get back, honestly. On the Jaguar side, you have Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr. Gabe Davis left with an injury, so now you're going to have no Gabe Davis and possibly no Evan Engram. Christian Kirk got a ton of targets in the low A dot area. Brian Thomas Jr. is the top guy on the outside running those high A dot routes. So that's what you're looking at. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. definitely the half PPR play. Christian Kirk maybe the full PPR play. Both aren't bad options. Brenton Strange, 19 of 35 routes. That's not enough for us, not for a guy of that talent level. So we're just waiting for Engram to get back at this stage. Trevor Lawrence is an interesting stash. When all these weapons come together, it could be a lot better for them. Travis Etienne, 30 snaps. Tank Bigsby, 17. So Tank Bigsby led in rushing yards. He had the big play. Definitely something to keep an eye on. We've seen it across the league. It's like the starters are struggling. The backups start to get more work, and then soon enough, the flippening happens, and this other guy takes over. We're keeping eyes on guys like Tank Bigsby and Chase Brown and Roshan Johnson. There's a few of those out there. Bucky Irving. So keep an eye on them. Again, still more routes and carries for ETN, but the tides are turning a little bit. So keep an eye on that. Next game here, we're looking at the Steelers and the Colts. The big story here, Colts saw Anthony Richardson get hurt. We saw Joe Flacco come in, and Michael Pittman got 9 targets. Josh Downs got 9 targets and found the end zone. The thing about Josh Downs is that he's still a part-time player. He's actually, in the 2 games since he's been back, 95% of his routes have been run from the slot. So he's not playing in 2 wide receiver sets, which caps his upside. But if he keeps playing the way he's playing, maybe they will keep him on the field and have Alec Pierce go to be a part-time guy. Alec Pierce looked more like the Alec Pierce of last year. 55 snaps, only 2 targets. Adonai Mitchell is now on the back burner. That's what happens with rookies a lot of times. So Josh Downs basically came in and took his job back. Definitely worth a waiver add, in my opinion. Again, check the waiver article at fantasyline.com when that's up. Tight end's a mess here, just all across the board. 4 different guys played and ran routes, so that's gross. Jonathan Taylor got banged up. I guess that would be the bigger story than Anthony Richardson, honestly. Trey Sermon is the ad if that injury looks to keep him out. So we'll keep an eye on that. And again, in the waiver article, we'll do our best to sum up what that situation is. On the Steelers side, no Jalen Warren. So we saw a lot more Najee Harris here. Cordell Patterson only played 9 snaps. So when he was out there, he kind of got the ball a decent amount. 9 snaps, he gets 6 carries and 2 targets. So when he's out there to get the ball. But Najee Harris, 48 snaps, 27 routes, 13 carries. Najee is the guy. So as long as Jalen Warren's out, we feel good about starting Najee Harris, especially in an Arthur Smith offense. George Pickens obviously led in targets. Not interested in the other wide receivers, though. Van Jefferson played 60 snaps. Calvin Austin only played 39. So if you're trying to take a dart throw there, it's Van. And then Pat Freiermuth, as we said, top 2 target on the team, played a bunch of snaps, ran a bunch of routes, 6 targets, scored a touchdown. Freiermuth, got to be feeling pretty good about what's going on with him. Again, Justin Fields is what it is, but Russell Wilson's probably not coming through that door to save him anytime soon. So just got to take it as it goes. Denver Broncos here against the Jets. Denver pulls out the upset despite the second leading pass catcher on the team was Michael Burton with 3 yards, fullback Michael Burton. So it was a Cortland Sutton show. Nobody else really involved. Little Jordan Humphrey ran the second most routes, had the second most snaps. Third on the team was actually Greg Dulcich with 16 routes out of 26, but only 24 snaps. So they brought in guys like Adam Trotman and Nate Adkins for blocking purposes. Just not enough upside for Dulcich unless he's going to be a full-time player. We were hoping he would be, but he's not. So there you go. Tyler Bidet had a very scary incident on the sideline. He had to be carted off. Still waiting to see what that was. It seemed like maybe it's hard to really speculate, so I'm not really even going to, but it seemed like maybe a seizure of some kind. I don't know. So keep an eye on for information on him. We're all obviously hoping that he's doing well. Javonte Williams led with 35 snaps, 21 for Julio McLaughlin. Again, Javonte Williams, more carries, more routes. He's the guy. We'll tell you if that changes at any point, but it's hard to trust the guy from Denver unless he's getting like all the snaps. 35 to 21 is not really enough. New York Jets, Garrett Wilson, 71 of 74 snaps, 50 of 51 routes. He's the man. 47 routes for Allen Lazard has him still ahead of Mike Williams. Mike Williams is kind of taking more snaps from Xavier Gibson. Gibson going on the back burner here. Tyler Conklin, 68 snaps, 46 routes, 8 targets. Didn't do much with him because that's what Conklin does. 48-40. He really needs to get peppered and or score a touchdown to have upside. That's been the case. This guy gets 87 targets 3 years in a row, and he's not even close to relevant. So that's been the problem for Conklin. The interesting thing here is the running back situation. Brees Hall played 51 snaps to 27. So he's obviously the pass down guy, but 10 carries for Hall, 8 for Allen. They clearly want to use Allen as a bruiser back, and why not? If you have two good players, use two good players. In fantasy, we say give it to the guy we like best every play, but that's not how it works in the NFL. Buccaneers, Eagles. On the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side, there was no Jalen McMillan, so Trey Palmer started, scored a touchdown, but then he got hurt. That saw Sterling Shepard step in. Shout out Sterling Shepard. Love to see him out there. He's had such a tough career injury wise, but 50 snaps, 5 targets. It's Chris Godwin and Mike Evans until, everyone else is just a stash because of those guys, right? K. Dodd continues to play a ton of snaps, run a ton of routes. Every once in a while, he'll get some targets, whenever Chris Godwin's dealing with the neck issue, like he kind of was this week, but just hard to trust a third fiddle tight end, but it could be worse. Trust me. Look around. It's been pretty bad for a lot of these guys. They said Bucky Irving would play more, and he did. 10 carries for Bucky, 10 carries for Rachaad White. Rachaad White was still the preferred guy in the pass game, but only by a little bit. 27 pass snaps to 22 for Bucky. They split it more down the middle. Bucky got kind of the goal line work. Bucky Irving needs to be added in your leagues, 100%. Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert was the lead guy very clearly, and then he got banged up. We don't really know what it is. One beat reporter mentioned it, but we still are waiting for info on that. Jahan Dotson and Paris Campbell led in snaps with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown out. No team needs the bye week more than this team. Luckily, they get the earliest bye week, so they're going to take a week to rest here. Hopefully, we get A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert back. If not, then we'll sort through the rubble. Jahan Dotson, obviously the top guy there. Grant Calcaterra was the second pass catching tight end on the team. Jack Stoll, not really a threat there, so that's the guy you want to look for if something happens. If Goddard is out for extended period, we still don't know what's going on there. Commanders, Arizona Cardinals, Jaden Daniels looks awesome. Flat out. Good player, good quarterback. I mean, I know it's small sample size, but got to be getting him in your lineups wherever you have him. 100% because he's throwing the ball well, he's running the ball well. Terry McLaurin, 10 targets. Awesome. Noah Brown was actually the second wide receiver, 48 snaps to 31 for Luke McCaffrey, 26 routes to 17. Noah Brown on the radar now. If Jaden Daniels keeps being awesome, then that leaves room for somebody to step up. Noah Brown last year, for the Texans had a couple fill-in games where he had 150 plus yards. So deep league idea for sure. Zach Ertz played 48 snaps. John Bates played 40. Ben Sennett played 30. That's honestly the most snaps for Sennett, but he only ran 8 routes. If something happens to Ertz, Ben Sennett, I think, would leapfrog John Bates into that pass catching role. Ertz only got 3 targets, but again, you could do worse than Ertz. Ertz is like, at least he's getting 3, 4, 5 targets a game. Some of these guys are catching 0 passes. Shout out Kyle Pitts. Shout out Mark Andrews. Brian Robinson, the lead back here, 21 carries to 8 for Jeremy McNichols, 19 routes to 13 for McNichols. So with Austin Eckler out, Brian Robinson got basically the preferred role in every capacity, and he's a great start until Eckler gets back. And then still probably a decent start considering how good Jaden Daniels has been. It's just Jaden Daniels, of course, as a mobile QB, doesn't dump it down as much and takes the goal line stuff himself. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Arizona Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. led 54 snaps, 6 targets. Michael Wilson, second, 50 snaps, 7 targets. We predicted that. Greg Dortch is the part-time slot guy, but with no Trey McBride, he played a lot more. Again, it was 28 total pass plays. Marvin Harrison ran all 28 routes. Michael Wilson ran 26. Greg Dortch ran 27. So he's out there. As long as Trey McBride's out, Dortch gets a little bump. Elijah Higgins, as expected, got that pass down role. He ran 25 of 28 routes. Tip Ryman only ran 4. Tip Ryman can be dropped in all formats. Dynasty doesn't matter. Elijah Higgins only got 3 targets, though, because he's not Trey McBride. We did our best. Worth a dart throw. He scored a touchdown in week 2. As long as Trey McBride's out, he could be worth a dart throw moving forward, but probably not a start in redraft. James Conner is the guy, top dog, 17 carries, ran more routes than everyone else. Mari DeMercado ran 4. So James Conner, 13 snaps, 14 for DeMercado, 11 for Trey Benson. So there you go. Next team here, this is the New England Patriots against the 49ers. And man, Jacoby Brissett doesn't even stand a chance out there. It's like throwing Jacoby Brissett out there is like showing up to court in a Looney Tunes sweatshirt. Like, you didn't stand a chance from the start. And behind this offensive line, it's brutal. So, I mean, they're going to keep rolling Jacoby Brissett out. They said he's still the starter, but we're stashing Drake May just because of the mobile upside. It's like if the line's not working, I know they want to protect the young quarterback. They don't want him to get killed out there, but with a way you can help the line is to have a mobile quarterback. So eventually we're hoping to see him. I'm stashing him in deep leagues where I can. Another guy that we've been stashing, Jalen Polk. I'm moving him from the stash article to the waiver article. I want to make sure this guy is added for when Drake May gets in there just to see because this week Jalen Polk he started. He led the team in snaps, all wide receivers and tight ends. He led the team in routes run with 34. He got 7 targets. He made a catch that was ruled not a catch, but Jalen Polk looked good as far as looking good on this team can go. Hunter Henry, second most snaps with 50, second most routes with 29, only 2 targets. They're playing cat and mouse games at tight end. For now, Hunter Henry versus Fred Warner was never a good matchup anyway, but I'm keeping him stashed just to see. I mean, he's getting the usage, he's getting the routes. We need a QB change. Ramondre Stevenson is the guy. Antonio Gibson, worth a spot start in some spots because he is playing some snaps and running routes. But again, this team stinks. San Francisco 49ers, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel took their jobs back. Juwan Jennings went back to being a part-time guy, only 36 of 63 snaps. So Juwan Jennings is a sell candidate. If you can still sell him for anything, I would definitely do that. George Kittle, 25 routes of 30, scored the touchdown. George Kittle, he is what it is. Get him in there in this economy, top option. Jordan Mason, 47 snaps, 24 carries. He's the guy. Isaac Grendo only played 5 snaps. And then Kyle Juszczyk played 38 snaps. That's why Juwan Jennings can't play a full snap share because Kyle Juszczyk's going to play a bunch. And Eric Saubert is going to play a little bit. And that's going to be the problem there. And it always will be. Chiefs at Chargers. Let's get this wrapped up. Couple games left. Chiefs here. Lost Rashee Rice, obviously. We're waiting on information on that, but it didn't look good. Xavier Worthy gets a bump. He led in snaps. Travis Kelce was asked to actually do a little more. 33 of 34 routes, led the team. Justin Watson stepped up, played the second most snaps, ran the second most routes, but he's more of a blocking, big body guy. I think Juju Smith-Schuster ends up probably being the next best bet here. But we'll have to see. Maybe they'll use Sky Moore. Maybe they'll use Juju. But Juju's probably it's probably just more Worthy and Kelce, and maybe some more running backs. I don't know. Kareem Hunt, he's the guy here. 14 carries, led the team 28 snaps. Samaje Perine played 25, but Kareem Hunt still played 13 pass plays, only 15 for Perine. Carson Steele kind of fumbled and maybe fumbled his way out of a job, looked bad on his target. So Kareem Hunt's the guy moving forward. Los Angeles Chargers, Joshua Palmer led. He's been dealing with an elbow issue. Ladd McConkey, though, right there. I mean, the reality is they used all 3 wide receivers plenty. Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, all 43 or 44 snaps, all 24 or 25 routes. So it's going to be matchup dependent, but Ladd McConkey feels like the safest one in terms of targets in your PPR leagues. Quentin Johnston, obviously, is a deeper threat, touchdown type guy. Hayden Hurst led in snaps and targets and routes again, but it's just not enough. They used too much Will Disley. Stone Smart only played 1 snap. Shout out Stone Smart. J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries, 14 routes run. Gus Edwards only played 14 snaps to 40 for Dobbins. So Dobbins is the guy. Simple. Browns here versus the Raiders. Just general ugliness once again. Amari Cooper, 55 snaps, 8 targets. Jerry Jeudy has been usable. 51 snaps, 9 targets. I know he's like 50% rostered in most leagues, but definitely check and see if he's out there. I've got him in a couple leagues, and where it gets deep and there's lots of flexes, I'm using him. It's been fine. At tight end, Jordan Akins rotated with Jeff Swaim and Blake Swihart. None of these guys are useful until David Njoku gets back. Jerome Ford once again led in every capacity and is a good start in fantasy football. With no Devontae Adams, no Michael Mayer, they brought up Harrison Bryant, basically played that Michael Mayer role. 45 snaps for Harrison Bryant, 48 for Brock Bowers. That's out of 59. 21 routes run for Bowers out of 26. Jacoby Myers ran all 26. Trey Tucker ran 25. So they didn't really boost up Bowers the way we hoped. They just used more Myers and more Tucker. I mean, we'll have to see if those guys continue to be out. Myers and Tucker are spot starts. Bowers, I'm just going to keep starting them because it can't get much worse, right? Zamir White, 17 carries to 5 for Madison. But when the game scripts are bad, Madison gets more pass plays. And again, Madison, the game script's probably going to be bad a lot. So you might be able to use Madison in some spots. Night game, last one here, Bills and Ravens. The Ravens have just been all over teams, man. 199 rushing yards for Derrick Henry, 90 something yard run or whatever to start the game. It's like they don't need to throw. They completed 12 passes against the Cowboys, 13 passes this week. It's like you don't need to use these guys. Here's the thing though. Isaiah Likely ran 12 of 20 routes. Mark Andrews only ran 9 of 20. He keeps telling us he's healthy, but that's not what they're showing. So I'm still going to hold on to Mark Andrews probably in deeper leagues. I'm not going to drop him, but you just can't start him. Can't start him. And the problem with Likely is that Likely played. There were 57 total snaps. Likely played 31. Andrews played 26. That's just not enough usage for either. So it's not like, oh, Andrews is bad, so we'll use Likely. You really can't use either guy. Zay Flowers again, only 2 targets, 16 of 20 routes run. Like his usage is there, but they don't have to throw. Like if they don't have to throw, then what are you going to do? Derrick Henry's awesome. Justice Hill plays the pass downs. There will be games. I mean, probably not even game scripts because if they're not going to like they've already played the Chiefs, the Cowboys. They just this week played the Bills. Like, I don't know. This team might just be able to run and be boring all year. So, what are you gonna do? Derrick Henry rocks. Buffalo Bills, they had to throw here. So Dalton Kincaid, 7 targets. We like to see it, but he still only ran 22 of 37 routes. So not ideal. Not ideal. We want to see him be a full-time player, and he's just not. Still rotating with Dawson Knox, still rotating with the wide receivers. Keon Coleman, here's how the snaps broke down: 59 total. Coleman played 43. Matt Collins played 36. Khalil Shakir played 35. Marquez Valdez Scantling played 25. Curtis Samuel played 22. Kincaid 37, Knox 27. No one played the whole game, and you saw that with the targets spread out: 4 for Coleman, 6 for Hollins, 5 for Shakir, 3 for Samuel, 7 for Kincaid. It's just we want consolidation. This team is not doing it. That's bad for fantasy football. James Cook at least led in carries and led in routes run. So he's still a guy. Josh Allen's a guy you're starting every week. And that's about it there. So we got Titans and Dolphins tonight, Seahawks and Lions tonight. So check that out. The waiver wire articles will be up Tuesday, as always, with all this information for you guys, with stashes, all that. Do me a favor, like, subscribe. We'll keep doing this, breaking down as best we can for you guys. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to us. Let's win some leagues.